so we actually couldn't find a place to put them. But one person in the copy shop, he said he's got a good Xerox copy machine at home, and he will do it tonight and we will have it tomorrow. For those who did not get a copy yesterday. Okay, so yes, are we settled there with the translation in the back? Yes, Vaishnav Sevakuru, you can still hear something. Maybe you don't have to stand there all the time, you know, you can just... So let me see, is there anybody who was not here yesterday? I think you were not here. So this is only one person. Everybody else was here yesterday. Well, just to refresh our memory, let us just quickly summarize what we talked about yesterday. Basically, we were introducing this whole topic of giving and accepting shelter. You know, with the realization, yes, so many people come to Krishna consciousness, they hang around for a while, then they somehow disappear, we lose them, you know, so it seems like the Bhakti Lata needs ongoing nourishment and care. So, and then we started off, what did we start off? Without looking at the materials for yesterday, we had a nice verse by Jiva Goswami. What did he say? Without looking, without looking. Let me see whether you are remembering anything, yes?
You say that people, when you travel in the and you get prema, they work together, but materialistic people, they want to be independent and ignore other people and try to compete with them and get them.
Yes, yes. Exactly. Jiva Goswami already observed that 500 years ago, that people in general, they ignore each other when they strive for their goals and success, but those aspiring for prema, they accept dependence on each other and they cooperate. So, and from there we were going to, you know, what are the materialistic relationships characterized by spiritual relationships. So, materialism is all about sense gratification, so immediately there's envy, competition, you know, ignoring, pushing each other out of the way. You know, this self-made man, in German we say, der Einzelkämpfer. Anybody here who speaks German? Not so many, just one. Yes, der Einzelkämpfer means you fight for yourself, you know. That's the move, to win the race there. So, and relationships are impersonal, they're superficial, it's just a business deal, I scratch you, back you scratch mine. You know, as long as we satisfy each other's senses, we are friends. And if somebody else comes along who can satisfy our senses better, then, you know, we don't need that other person anymore. So that's the mood in materialistic relationships. No respect, no service mood towards each other, just very self-centered. What can I get for myself here? And in spiritual relationships, the opposite. There's the idea there that the seniors reach out in affection to the juniors, uplift them, you know, bring them to a higher level. There's respect there, service mood, inquiry from the young people, and therefore the relationships are deep and meaningful, actually. So then, what else did we establish? Who can remember? Yes?
Siddhanta Saraswati said something very interesting about coaching and having an individual approach rather than speaking out from many people at one moment and not taking care of them individually.
Yes, he was making the statement, he was talking about the platform speaker. You know, anybody, even Vyasa-san is kind of a platform, you know, or in Bengal, always these stage programs, you know, that's the platform speaker, or even just giving a lecture for a general audience. He was saying this is not as valuable actually than this one-to-one coaching, correcting. He's saying, you know, a person's defects can be better rectified by a one-to-one advising and guiding rather than just giving lectures. And he's saying whatever in the lectures is spoken cannot really address each and every individual person's situation and their shortcomings. So it's actually not that effective. And we have that experience, you know. We might be listening to so many lectures and it's all very nice and we go out, we do get inspired, but then, yeah, the really individual correction and help and ideas where we have to work on, we don't so easily get in lectures. Of course, sometimes, you know, Krishna might arrange it that, wow, yes, this is just what I needed to hear, you know. But nevertheless, this personal approach of personal correction and guiding, Bhaktisiddhanta says this is actually of more permanent value, a preacher who's giving that. Right? And what else did we say? Yes?
Accepting sheltering, wanting to be corrected.
Very true. We were establishing what does it mean, a sheltering relationship. You know, yes, it's a senior, well-wishing, confidential friend who has no other interest except my spiritual progress, you know, and he's a role model. I can see some, you know, qualities in him which I want to develop, and we want to be corrected by that person. Even though it might be a little painful to our ego, but it is a sweet pain, and from that person we accept it. Maybe from nobody else, but from that person we will. It's actually a loving exchange, because we allow somebody to touch upon some very sensitive points which we don't so easily allow anybody to touch upon. Right? That is a sheltering relationship. But if we avoid, if we run away from this correction, or we defend and well, then we are resisting. We are actually not taking shelter. That's the whole point. Yes. And what else? Any other points?
That real spiritual growth is impossible if we don't come to a point where we give shelter.
Yes. Also very true. You know, there was from Garuda Purana, unless one shows mercy to those who are in an inferior position, one's life is superficial. Because we are only looking at our needs and our desires and what I want, and we are not actually reaching out. It's actually Kanishta. That's what it is, Kanishta Adhikar. You know, but Madhyam is when we reach out to others, when we actually want to pass on what we have received. Yes. And our life will be superficial unless we get to this point where we naturally want to do this, and not only our life but our relationships. We were calling them Hari-Bol relationships. Hari-Bol, 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 oh Hari-Bol. Yes, but not much more than that, you know, it's just Hari-Bol, Hari-Bol, but no deeper exchange there. Very external, superficial relationships. Yes. And we were saying, in materialistic culture, the basis of relationships is what? Sense gratification. So, and when we come to Krishna consciousness, we don't want this anymore. We don't talk about, oh, let's go to the movies or let's enjoy together. So, and unless we replace this foundation of sense gratification with giving and accepting shelter, then our relationships remain external. That's the whole point. There's a vacuum there. You know? It's hollow. Unless we put something else in its place, and that's what it is, giving and accepting shelter. That's what we have to put there in its place. Exactly. And then we were also talking about the brahmanas, that actually it's a very important function of the brahmanas to play this role of being the arupa medical advisor. Not being interested in, you know, power and title and control and all that, but simply in seeing what is needed there. That's what the Brahmanas are meant to do. All the Kshatriyas, the kings, they had such Chanakya Pandit. And the same principle we actually also need on our levels. Everybody needs such a person. Why? Who can quickly explain? Why do we need such a person? An aloof political advisor. Not always the same. Come on. Was I such a bad teacher that you cannot even remember anything? Did you have your hand up?
The more experienced says that the other one learns from him.
Yeah, that's Guyamakyati Prichati. Yes. But why do we need this aloof medical advisor?
Because he can see us from outside and we cannot see our own faults.
Why not?
Because of the false ego.
Well, false ego, yes, but more concrete. Because we have what? Yes, we have material desires and attachments, and as long as we have material desires and attachments, our vision of ourselves is cloudy. We cannot see. We cannot assess ourselves, where we are standing, where we are at. So that's why we need somebody who can help us to assess ourselves. And that's a very important Brahminical, function. Quality of the Brahmins. Right? Okay, well, so I think in the main thing we have quickly summarized. So now, you all have the materials of day number 2 in front of you, right? You didn't get them? Do we have any more, Anna? You can give it, yes. Okay. So, part 1 of this session, I want to once more try to establish this importance of sheltering relationships, but from a different angle. One more time, to really make it firm and strong, And then the second part, we want to discuss the topic of envy. Very important topic in this connection. We will get to it later. So, let us just do a little philosophical side trip there, just to remember the importance of service attitude. That it is actually of the greatest importance to develop a genuine, selfless service attitude. And proportionally to how we develop this service attitude, Krishna actually responds. Krishna reveals himself. Right? Do we have one more set of materials for Prabhuji? Sorry. Mataji, whenever somebody walks in, just get up and give them the materials, Any latecomers, that's the last one. Or you give them yours and you get it tomorrow. Yes, so Krishna cannot be understood by our blunt material senses, by our mind. No, Krishna reveals himself according to our mood of service. He says that in so many verses. Bhaktyamama vijanati. One can only understand me through devotional service, nothing else. Or tesham sadhari yuktanam, to those who constantly serve me in devotion, to them, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. That's the way Krishna reveals. Actually, interestingly, all our studies, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vairava, actually it is meant to bring us to this point of service. That's what it is meant for. So first we get the Sambandha Gyan, who am I, who is Krishna, what is this whole world all about? And that is meant to bring us to the mood of service, in chanting and in practical service. And then depending on how we serve, Krishna reveals. So, realizations don't come through studies. They don't. We might be very learned, but we might have very little realization. Yes. Because the realization, they're revealed in the heart by Krishna, proportionally to our mood of service. Very natural. Krishna is a person. So if he sees the devotee so much endeavoring to serve him nicely, he feels indebted, he feels attracted, and he wants to show himself to that person, just to reciprocate. Right? So, and therefore, very, very important that actually a devotee serves with heart and soul. Sadhadam kirtayantumam yatanta shadrita rata. We were talking about it in Ekachakra. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination. No matter what we do in spiritual practice, whether it's chanting or sweeping the floor or blessing the deities, we are meant to do it with great endeavor. That's the right service mood. The heart has to be involved. We have to desire to please somebody. And we have to give our very best. I was sharing that example when once, many years ago, I heard Radha Swami speaking about this. And he was giving this example. He was saying actually the heart is like a muscle. So if we want to train a muscle, if we go to the gym, the exercising studio, and we just lift something which is very easy to lift, we can do this all day and all night, and there will be absolutely no muscle growth happening. Right? Nothing. Being a physiotherapist, I can definitely verify that. So, but then, if we train with utmost, endeavor, but we just barely can lift, if we train like this, well, then very quickly something will happen there in the muscles. No? Very logical. So, and Radha Swami was saying, yes, same thing is there in regards to bhakti. If we actually give our very best in our service, something will happen there in the heart. But if we just do with minimal effort, nothing will happen there. We can serve lifetime after lifetime. Very little will happen really there in the heart. And we have a nice little verse here, Garuda Purana. The word bhakti. Can you give it here? Huh? Oh, that's in Russian. Oh yeah. The Xerox copy machines didn't work today. We couldn't even print from yesterday, Not in the long building, not outside. I've had this many times in Mayapur. You can't find a copy machine to copy the materials, Can be a bit of a problem. So, Garuda Purana. The word bhakti is derived from the root verb form bhaj. And the verbal root bhaj means to render service. So bhakti, Prabhupada translated that in a very down-to-earth matter as devotional service, not divine love or something, but very practical. That's what it means. To love means to serve. And bhakti means devotional service. Therefore, thoughtful sadhakas should engage in the service to Sri Krishna with great endeavor. For it is only by such service that bhakti is born. Yes, only by such service mood bhakti is developing, if it is done with great endeavor. And it's very clear, even in human relationships, if you do something for a friend, let's say you make him a birthday cake or something. So if you put your heart and soul into it and you make it really, really nice and you meditate, how can I make this really nice? Wow, that person's heart will be conquered, and it deepens the relationship. But if you just quick, you whack something together there, you can immediately see, oh well, that was not so, made with so much endeavor and care and attention there. So it's very natural. Krishna also reacts according to how much sacrifice, how much endeavor we make. Very clear. Then he shows himself. So now, understanding all this makes it very clear that actually one needs to be sheltered and protected in order to serve with such great endeavor. Right? If we are not sheltered, we will not be able to give our heart and soul in service. We will hold back. We will think, okay, well, where am I here in this whole game? Who is going to take care of me here? And we will be holding back. We will not, give our everything in service. Yes. Right? It's clear, isn't it? We will be holding back. Yes. Because actually, if we give our heart and soul in service, we put ourselves in a vulnerable position. Because we are giving our very heart. And very easily somebody could take advantage of this. Right? Yes, we put ourselves really in a vulnerable position. We invest our emotions, our heart. Yes. And that is only possible if we feel sheltered and protected. Otherwise we can't. Meaning, sheltered and protected, meaning that we have, this trust that there is somebody there who is really interested in our spiritual progress and nothing else. Right? I'm sure we all have this experience that sometimes, we are afraid to just being exploited. Right? It actually took me so many years to understand this, because I came across this quite a lot in the past, that devotees say, oh, I feel exploited, and used. In Australia we have this term, devotees being roster fodder. Roster fodder? You understand what roster fodder is? Well, fodder is what you feed to the animals, like in the Goshala there, the fodder, or these rice things, the dry stuff from the straw, So roster fodder means the roster, of the cooking roster, the DD schedule there, and roster fodder means that we just feed devotees to the roster. They become roster fodder. They become, how to say, hole fillers, they're just to fill the gaps, in the roster there. In other words, what we touched upon yesterday, the managerial glasses, that we see people only in terms of what service they can offer. Oh, a new person is coming, great, he's a cook, put him in the kitchen. Or puja is coming, just what we needed. We need somebody to dress the deities tomorrow. So if we have that attitude, then people very easily feel like roster fodder. Right? So, and this very easily makes people feel exploited. And it took me so many years to understand. I was always responding, saying, God, no, what are you talking about? You're serving Krishna, Krishna accepts. Why feeling exploited, I could not relate to it. And of course, I'm getting hot here, talking with great endeavor. Yes, of course, in the ultimate sense, there is no exploitation because Krishna accepts our service. But this mood of feeling exploited comes in when we don't have such sheltering relationship. That's when it comes in, when we don't have at least one person in our life, when we can be very sure that this person has no other interest except my spiritual progress. It does not have to be the manager, it can be somebody else. But if we don't have that person in our life, then very easily that feeling of being exploited can come up. So actually, we cannot blame the managers for this. Because as we said yesterday, to manage is a tough job, my God. And naturally, they have that managerial vision of things. That's their duty to make ends meet. So for this feeling of being exploited, we can't blame the managers. Actually, we have to blame ourselves because we don't have such sheltering relationship. Yes, that's the problem. But if we have that, then we will not feel exploited, even though maybe the devotees, might treat us a little bit, with these managerial glasses or something. But then we know, I've got this person in my life. I can always consult with him. He will make sure I will not just, work, and I will get the balance wrong here in my spiritual life, because that's sometimes what happens. That we are so overloaded with service that the balance is not met, and we neglect our sadhana, and we never have a time out to recharge. We don't get any trains to go anywhere, to the dam or to festivals or seminars or retreats or something. So that all has to be nicely balanced, And sometimes, especially in the past, out of immaturity, we have made so many mistakes. It's natural, it's gone as a young organization. So there's so many growing pains there, And sometimes this feeling of being burned out comes, right? Yes, that's the ISKCON lingo, the ISKCON language slang. Oh, I'm fried, I'm burned out. So these things happen, but they happen mainly when we don't have this sheltering relationship. When we don't have anybody in our life to whom we can go and say, I think I need a break, can you help me? What do you think? Is it just my mind, or am I actually needing a break? So this classical burnout, there's two main reasons why we burn out. One reason is that our life is emotionally imbalanced. This is especially for the ladies. Temple life is good for some period, but in the long run, it's emotionally too dry for women. Because they're actually not meant to live like this. They're meant to be in family, where you have all kinds of affectionate relationships, so that the emotional needs are fulfilled. So temple life is often a little dry for ladies, And it's good for some years for training, but yes, this term of temple devotee, this is a little bit outdated. This is a bit of an old hat, We realize now that actually most women make much nicer progress when for some part of their life they're situated in family life. Yes. And this just going out and book distribution year after year after year after year. That there's some emotional dryness easily coming. So this emotional imbalance is one reason, and then the other reason is that there is nobody who we have trust, that we can reveal our mind. In other words, easily it's also an effect of the false ego that we want to appear stronger than we actually are. Yes, sure, I can do it, no problem, of course. Look at me, how advanced I am. I'm doing so much service. Then we burn out. So these are the main two reasons for this classic burnout and fried, being fried, is the emotional imbalance and not being humble and honest enough to say, oh, I'm sorry, this is just a bit much for me. I don't think I can do this now. And of course, sometimes it might be also our tamaguna and our laziness, so that's why we need a counselor. That's why we need somebody who can assess us, who can say, actually, you've been too sleepy, you're wasting time here, you could be a much better time organizer here. Or the counselor might be saying, just slow down, and just don't be a workaholic here, So to strike that balance right, we do need somebody to assess ourselves. So let's get back to this point that in order to serve with heart and soul, we need to be sheltered. Because very easily, we get to the point of feeling exploited, or we just lose the balance, or we are holding back, we are afraid, and we are holding back. Like very often, we have the phenomena, oh, we don't have enough devotees to do service in the temple, we need more devotees. But very often it's not a question of we need more devotees, but we have actually so many, but they only give 10% of what they could be giving. They're not giving their everything. They are holding back. Yes, definitely. We actually have so much potential. We can give so much energy. But if that trusting relationship, that shelter, and personal relationships is not there, we will not be inclined. We just do something, but we are very careful that we're not going to do too much. Yes. And see, very clearly we can see when Prabhupada was in this world, he just inspired people to give their very life. Because people felt sheltered. They felt cared for, because Prabhupada was the perfect personalist, really caring on a very personal level, seeing every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, and having that compassionate, caring mood. So inspired people to just give their life and soul. It really did. Often you hear Prabhupada disciples saying that if Prabhupada would have told me to jump from the 10th floor of a skyscraper, I would have done it. Yeah, people say like that. Yes, because they just had so much faith in Prabhupada, and they felt so protected that they were willing to cut their throat to please Prabhupada. Sometimes we can feel there's a bit. This mood is lacking these days, and according to my humble understanding, it is really connected with this lack of shelter. Lack of shelter, trusting, personal, confidential relationships. Yes, and that's why we are holding back. We just do something, but we're not taking risks and really sacrificing ourselves to please Guru and the devotees and Prabhupada. Yes. And we cannot if we don't feel that shelter. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. So what happens very easily, we get caught in a vicious circle. Because we don't have sheltering relationships, we cannot serve with heart and soul. And because we cannot serve with heart and soul, Krishna will not reveal himself more tangibly to us. And therefore, we cannot even get to this point where we get actually this trust in Krishna, that ultimately Krishna is giving shelter and care. So we are hovering on this lower level there in a vicious circle that we can't serve with heart and soul, therefore Krishna doesn't reveal, therefore we don't feel inspired to serve more. And like that, we are caught up in a circle. And I can't help myself feeling that this is really going on so much in ISKCON. So much. That we just lead some humdrum life there, doing something little. And because we're not serving with heart and soul, we also don't get deeper realizations. And that faith in Krishna doesn't grow and mature. And therefore, we're not giving ourselves in service. And therefore we're just, we're stuck, stagnant. And the root problem is this lack of sheltering relationships. Because without that, well, that's what we get. Then we can't serve with heart and soul. Okay. I'm just looking if I forgot anything. Yeah, and I mean, as we know, to get Krishna's mercy, we have to get Guru's mercy. To get Guru's mercy, we have to get the Vaishnava's mercy. Krishna says, not he is my devotee who claims to be my devotee, but he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my real devotee. So it all starts with serving, pleasing the devotees and taking shelter of the devotees. Because Krishna acts to his devotees. That's where we have to start. And then gradually Krishna will reveal himself more tangibly until we can develop that faith that yes, Krishna actually does take care of us. But in the beginning stage, we don't really have that solid connection, and faith is not really established that we can have that faith that Krishna is there. Even with Guru, often we might be wondering, is my Guru Maharaj actually hearing it all, how much I'm trying to serve here? Does he know? Even there, that faith is not really there so strong. So that's why we have to start with the devotees. And if we please the devotees, definitely Guru will hear about it. Yes. So let me see if there is any questions about this. It's simply, one more time we are trying to establish here this need for the sheltering relationship. Right? This time from the angle of service attitude. That the service attitude is just so super important, and unless we have shelter, we cannot develop it actually. Yes?
You mentioned the two reasons of trust and emotional imbalance. Isn't that at times you try to, like in the start of a relationship, maybe at times you trust and you come together and then you try to give shelter selflessly, or maybe because you are a sadhaka, doing a sadhana bhakti, so there may be a tinge of lot of different motivations involved. Yet, when you give shelter, the nature to give that is always motivated. So, trust is always in a deficit parameter. It's not like complete trust for the relationship. So, how do you try to understand that paradigm that when trust has to be given, it has to be completely, and you won't get cheated by that trust. And it becomes difficult to give that kind of shelter at times.
So you're talking now about giving shelter or taking shelter?
In the both ways.
So, but from which side?
Mostly from giving the shelter.
A person giving the shelter, you were saying there's always some motivation. No, there should not be any motivation. The only interest should be to help that person their spiritual progress. No other interest. It has to be genuinely selfless. And we will talk about that on Thursday when we discuss. We have a whole list of qualities we have to have in order to be able to give shelter. You know? That question also came up a little yesterday, you know? But we are just not there yet. We will get to it on Thursday when we discuss what qualifications we have to strive for in order to give shelter. Yeah. What about this here, the service attitude connected with shelter, with feeling exploited?
We heard this morning from Mataji about striving very hard to perform a service, doing something with your heart and soul, and then you present it to the person, and they just say, yeah, we don't really need that. And then that feeling of devastation. So this is a story we hear often, not only inside this God, everywhere. And wherever there's human beings, that's common occurrence. So how to deal with that in the realm of...
So doing something with great endeavor and then feeling devastated if it's not needed. Well, we have to look at the things, at the situation from the two sides, you know? So from the side of endeavoring and then our service is not needed, actually, you know, a devotee thinks, analyzes, oh, why am I devastated? You know, what is Krishna trying to teach me here? And then we realize we're devastated because we had a certain expectation. So whenever we have an expectation, especially if that expectation is not met, then there will be disappointment, you know, and devastation. The more we expect, the more devastated we are, you know. So we could also say, well, you know, we could say, if we actually simply want to serve, then we don't mind such a thing so much. We think, alright, well, I thought I can serve like that. But anyway, it was great while I had the absorption, you know. That's actually one interesting point, that, you know, the mind likes to make plans. So one trick, you know, is really to flood your mind with all kinds of plans for serving Guru and Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Even if the plans never manifest, it doesn't matter so much. Just the absorption in itself is so purifying. You know, I mean, how many times have I been in this situation where I had a big plan and oh my God, and then, oh, I thought, well, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter, okay, let's change the plan. It was great while I had the absorption. You know? No loss, actually. No loss. No loss. The absorption is what counts, and Krishna accepts. Even if the devotees don't accept, but Krishna accepts the service attitude. We get the spiritual benefit. No problem. So if we can see things a little bit more deep, you know, then we understand actually there's no loss. Even though it was not necessary, but I had the absorption, I tried my very best and Krishna accepts it. So that's from the side of the devotee. So now of course the side of the senior devotee looks different. Right? He should of course deal with younger devotees in such a way that they don't feel devastated. You know? And it's a way how to present things. I mean, sometimes these things happen in life, you know? But if the person who is in charge there and gives the bad news that, oh, unfortunately we don't need that service anymore now, you know, if that person presents it in a nice way, you know, then there will not be some big devastation. You know? So the situation looks different from both sides, you know.
What about when they don't? When they do, you know,
well, then if that person has a counselor, and that person goes to the counselor, and he's a little smart, then he will preach to that person and say, never mind, Krishna accepted you endeavor. You had absorbed and working it all out. That's the goal of Krishna consciousness, to always remember Krishna, never forget Him. So how we do this is secondary. The main point is to flood the mind with thoughts and plans, how to please Krishna. So you had a great time working on it. Never mind, Krishna sees. Krishna accepted all your service, endeavor, and your attitude. You get the same benefit as if it is accepted. Only the false ego doesn't get the recognition. You know, or my big proposal there was accepted, look at this. So it's actually a matter of the ego. The ego is disappointed because it doesn't get that recognition. But Krishna accepts. Krishna accepts. Yes, yes.
Inspiration always helps, right? Inspiration, appreciation always helps taking forward without that inspiration.
Yes, yes. So, you know, if the manager can't give it, so if you have a counselor, then he will catch the whole situation. Yes. And then he can go to the manager and say, hey, you know, this and such was a little devastated here, so maybe better in future be a little more appreciative and careful and not just brushing it off and sorry, no need or something, you know. But see, Krishna, being Krishna conscious means that we can connect any situation with Krishna behind it, that we can see Krishna's hand in any situation, even if it is most frustrating, disappointing, calamities, whatever it may be. So the more a person is Krishna conscious, the less he will be devastated. You know? But of course, a new devotee might be devastated. So.
He's been in the temple for a week. Has
Yes.
read 2 verses of Bhagavad Gita. Doesn't even know how to pronounce the mantra.
Yes, he will be devastated, and that's why, you know, we do need sheltering relationships, that we catch the situation and that people don't just walk out and they're never to be seen again or something, you know. Yes. And these things do happen more than we, you know, think. That just because of some disagreement, some tension, some misunderstanding, people walk out and they basically leave Krishna consciousness, you know. But if they had a counselor, you know, then they would be caught in the net of care there, you know. That then the counselor would ring, hey, I haven't seen you for 3 days, what's happening? You know, or then you have somebody to share and reveal your heart, you know, and then the counselor can, you know, catch the situation and explain things more deeply. But, you know, that's also an effect of the false ego. If the false ego is hurt, false ego blocks our vision, our ears, our brain, we can't understand. And then we can't even see things in a Krishna conscious way, you know. So, but a well-wishing friend, a counselor, he is the one who can help us in such a situation, you know? But if there's nobody there, yeah, then people walk out, they're offended. Anything else? Any other questions just about this?
Just a comment, I really like your point of connecting shelter and service. Because really that's what we're all about, is the service attitude. So it's very practical. So if we all want to serve, we want to serve more and more and more. As you said, maybe, you know, that there are enough people there, but they're only giving 10%. So if I'm only giving 10%, I'm afraid to give more, then what I need to look for is shelter, because then I'll be able to serve better. So
Exactly.
very nice.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And we can really be stagnant. We can be stuck because the realizations don't come if we have that service attitude. You know? And even from a management point of view, once the manager understands, yes, if my people are sheltered, they will be all giving their heart and soul. You know? Yes, then even from a point of view, it's all worthwhile, you know, to make some endeavor that there is some mentoring and counselor system or something happening, That's why many yatras, put a lot of emphasis on this, I mean, Ukraine, Swami endeavored for the last 15, 16, 17 years. He's tirelessly preaching it, and twice a year they have a whole weekend retreat where all the counselors from all Ukraine come to Kiev for, about 200 people. They have special seminars, and it's a whole thing. He gives so much endeavor, but it's not a cheap thing. But now you can see the fruits, Ukraine Yatra very strong, Okay, let me see. Yeah, so, let's conclude this. Giving and accepting shelter is most natural within spiritual culture. But since we are conditioned from the more materialistic background there, that's why it is also new and foreign for us. We are still in that mood of, pushing each other out of the way and competing and just being self-centered, looking at my interest and my schedule and. So that's why we need some facilitation. We need a little bit of help there to cultivate these principles of giving and accepting shelter. As we were yesterday mentioning this example with a child learning to walk, I also use that here, that yes, it is natural for a child to walk, most natural, but nevertheless, at a certain age of 1 year, somebody has to facilitate it and teach it. And it's very similar with this principle of giving and accepting shelter. It's the most natural thing in spiritual practice. But, coming from a more, materialistic background, it needs to be facilitated. And for many people, it is a very natural thing, Like, I have to say about myself, I actually always, from day number 1 in my Krishna consciousness, I thank God, I always had such a person in my life, where I felt, this person is really there for me, having interest in my spiritual progress. And I was always looking for this. Subconsciously, I didn't even realize. So for some people it is happening informally, but only for some. For so many it's not. You're saying? And that's why it is advisable to have a little bit of a structure there in order to facilitate it, because it just doesn't quite happen all by itself, That's the whole thing. Yes. Yeah, and I mean, next week we will have the topic of Vanaprastha ashram. Just a short little comment here. Actually, it is the Vanaprastha's, role in society to actually reach out to the young folks and give their care and their guidance, share their life experience. Because Vanaprasthas, they should be having a whole wealth of life experience. Having gone through all the different ashrams, being for so many years in Krishna consciousness, they have accumulated so many experiences, so much wisdom. And that's the valuable contribution the Vanaprasthas are meant to make. That they share this with the young generation. Not established. Yes, not really established. Hardly at all, I mean, actually, at present we have it like all the devotees, they all run with their family marriage problems to the gurus usually, the sannyasis. 75% of their time is actually taken with family problems. But it's not meant to be like that. Actually, the elders in the society are meant to solve those problems. The Vanapastas, not the sannyasis. They are meant to preach about the chanting of the holy name. You know, yes. And so many other devotional, topics and principles. They're not meant to work out, whether you should get divorced or not, and who you're going to get married and all this. That's actually not the sannyasi's business. But because we have not established this Vanaprastha ashram basically, and also this giving and accepting shelter. According to my analysis, this is one reason why we have a hard time actually establishing clearly the Vanaprasthas, because this giving and accepting shelter is not established. And often the young generation, they don't even get the idea that there is an experienced devotee who I could ask for advice. It's not established properly, that culture. Yes. And it's also not established that the elders are reaching out in affection, that they show some interest. What is the young folks here doing? Maybe I can uplift them with affection. It's also not really coming, and we are missing out, they're sitting idle and they can't actually really, make that input which they could be giving. Yes, so I remember Bhakti Priyat Bhagavad Maharaj was also talking about this, that actually the Vanaprasthas, in that way, they're protecting the sannyasis, by them giving all this, advice about family life, so that the sannyasis don't have to deal, with all these questions. Yes. Okay. Before we move on to the main topic of this today's session, let me one more time ask if there is any questions just related to this topic of establishing the importance of these principles of giving and accepting shelter. Are there any doubts?
It's touched here, it's mentioned 7 days from love work or something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got confused. On the first page, there are 2 sentences mentioned 7 ways from love work based on duty.
Yes. Well, it is simply that discrimination between work and service. That work is more as duty, and often there's some expectation in return, but service, we are actually meant to give our heart and soul. So usually we may be starting off as serving in the sense of my duty. We might be starting off like this, but then that duty should actually be transformed into something more deeper. That we don't just do it out of duty, but out of selfless love, affection, whatever. I once heard a nice little example, like imagine you are the cook for the deities, you're meant to cook an offering. So it's your duty, you're on the roster, and therefore you go and cook as a sense of duty. But eventually we should come to the point of, oh, Krishna's hungry, let me go and cook for him. So that duty is more and more transforming into love, actually. But that of course, a more mature level, you know. But that better to have the sense of duty rather than being irresponsible and giving up our duties. That's we often also find, like especially in marriage, sometimes we don't realize, well, we have accepted a certain contract here, we are meant to perform our duties towards each other, whether we like it or not, it's our duty. So we can't just run off and flee the scene here, and so beginning stage is duty, but then as it matures, it should be developing actually in devotion, into devotion. Right? Yes.
Is that related also, they say how the boys perform Bhakti first and then they go to Bhakti? First it's as a duty and then it comes as spontaneous love.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't really connect it like this. It is still a bit of a higher topic there, like a Yoga platform. But ultimately we can say the same principle we find on that level too. But there's much more to it, to be on Raga Yoga platform than just being more spontaneously attracted or something. Okay, yes?
Can this taking shelter have negative consequences? So we don't have this pure connections with Krishna, and if we interact with each other, we get dependent on each other.
Если мы получаем таким убежище, может быть это убежище, чувство прибежища негативное.
And if we are giving shelter, can this shelter be negative?
Есть 100% происходит трансформация.
Or is there always some transformation?
For the person who is giving shelter or accepting shelter, or both, or... I mean, see, the only complication is there when this giving and accepting shelter is not genuine, when there is some material motive there. Then, it becomes some manipulative thing there. But that becomes exposed. So that's why I was saying yesterday at the end that this giving and accepting shelter, it's actually a churning mechanism. It churns the anarthas. They become more obvious, from both sides. They become apparent. When the shelter giver has some material motive, he's not walking his talk, he's saying something, but then he's doing another thing, and he's somehow using his dependent in some way or something, well, it will come out, it will be exposed. And the same way from the shelter taker, if he also has some manipulative motives there and plays football with that person or uses him somehow and all that, that there is opportunity from both sides to exploit. That is always there in every relationship. So the opportunity is there, but it will be exposed. So we will talk a little bit at the very end about this on Friday, but just to say one thing, we cannot expect that there will be no difficulties. Of course there will be difficulties, of course there will be problems. You know? It's like in marriage. By the way, married life is also giving and accepting shelter. Nothing else. So, and the marriage problems are there because we are not true selfless servant. If we would be true selfless servant, there would be no marriage problems. So that's why this whole marriage arrangement is a whole churning process. Because it will come out, it will be visible that we are conditional, that we demand and expect, that we are not selflessly serving. So that all comes to the service. Right? Definitely. That's the whole purifying thing of married life. And it's the same thing there in giving and accepting shelter, you know, in other sheltering relationships, not husband and wife, but other sheltering relationships. It is a purifying journey. It's a whole journey process. So difficulties have to be expected, of course. They're there because we are not selfless. You know? So just because there might be some difficulty doesn't mean the whole idea is wrong. You know? Same thing with married life. Just because married life brings about difficulty doesn't mean that we throw the whole marriage out of the window and say we don't need it anymore or something. No, it's the whole purifying journey. You know? Same thing is there with this giving and accepting shelter. There's often some misconceptions, you know. Often people say, oh, we tried that, doesn't work, too many problems. No, wrong understanding. You know, the problems are there because of our impurities. And it's great that they come to the service. Finally we can deal with them. We see them, they become apparent. You know, that's the whole point. But if we don't, you know, invite this giving and accepting shelter in our life, we have superficial, immoral relationships, impersonalism, you know, and we get stuck. You know, so better to take up the challenge of working with these difficulties because they're part of purification. You know? It's like when you go to the dentist and then you say, oh, that was painful, I don't go anymore. You know? Not a very smart argument. You know? Okay, so, very last question.
How important is it that the person who is giving shelter, the counselor, has a good connection to Krishna, or is it?
We'll talk about that on Thursday. All the qualifications a counselor has to have. Ooh, there's a whole big list. You'll be surprised. But it's great because it gives us some targets to work towards. You know, very concrete target. Oh, these qualities I meant to develop so I can actually grow and become a shelter giver. So my life is not superficial anymore. You know, we need that. We need that. That's the main contribution actually for a more senior, mature grihasta. You know, often the grihastas in the community, they feel, oh, how can I be involved, you know, what can I do? That's the thing, you know, to qualify more and more to actually give shelter. And then according to our capacity, you know, we might just have a few people or we might be able to reach out to more depending on our capacity. You know, but that's such an important, valuable contribution of the Grihastha Ashram. We will talk about it all, you will discover it all. Yes. No?